Hello and welcome to the Of Mouse and Men podcast. As always, I'm Kevin.
And I am Angelo.
And it's been a while, guys. We didn't plan on taking a break. Yeah, but a series of unfortunate events happened. I don't know if we could say that copyright, but, you know.
Yeah,
we're here now.
There was basically a hurricane happened, and
that happened.
Footage got messed. There was a whole mess of issues that
It was definitely a series of unfortunate events, but we're here now nonetheless. If this podcast is seeing the light of day.
If this is out. We were talking about some pretty interesting developments in the news today.
Yes,
we're talking
because
about some Mulan info, some Paramount Decree theater stuff, so it should be fun.
Yes. So in the last, I guess it was week, when did Mulan get announced? It's just been like a week since it's been announced.
Yeah, it's been like a week.
Yeah. A lot has happened. So we're going to talk about it. The movie industry has changed, and I think it may be for the better, it may be for the worse. We'll see what's going to happen. But let's start with Mulan, Angelo.
Yes. So, if you are unaware, Mulan will be coming to not theaters, but Disney Plus on August 4th. No, not August 4th. September 4th.
Yes.
Disney Plus on September 4th, but for $30. So
yes, you're gonna have to chunk out some money to see Mulan. But yeah, they announced this at their. Yes, you have, on top of your subscription for Disney Plus, you're gonna have to pay for Mulan, so it's $30 on top of your $7.
So if you just want to watch Mulan, it's $37.
Yes, so if you're signing up for Disney Plus just to watch Mulan, it'll be $37. But I think most people who do it will have Disney Plus already. But we'll see. Bob Chapek did say that we'll see how many subscriptions we get next quarter, meaning Mulan. So we'll see what it looks like there. But Angelo, you talk, tell us.
No, yeah, I was just going to say, honestly, I think it's good. I'm excited for it. I know we're going to be watching Mulan September 4th.
Yeah, because it is August
$30. Yeah, $30 might seem a little. It's August. That's insane. $30 might seem like a lot, but also like if you watch it with like two people, that's already, at least where we go to movies, that's already the price of like 2 movie tickets.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are upset with that $30 price tag, and it is a little steep if you consider like Trolls was available for $20, right? For the 48-hour rental. But I think it's honestly a fair price considering most people who have Disney Plus are families. So if you are someone who doesn't have like AMC A-List or whatever the subscription services are for a movie theater, you're paying the like ticket total, it'll add up into the $30. You're just not getting that theater experience.
Yeah, even if you have a family of 4 and like I think the average ticket price in the US at least is like $9 to $10. Which sounds insane for us, Kevin, because is that the
average?
If you look it up, that's what it says. I don't know how accurate that is, but I mean, we're also in like when we go to movies, we're in like more developed or not like in the
developed areas. Yeah.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean like
no. We're in the northeast, so we're like
areas.
Yeah, so we have a lot of our ticket prices are going to be larger sums of money.
Yeah, I imagine in the Midwest when it's like way less people, it's like cheaper and everything, and also like land isn't that expensive. That's just what I mean by like how developed the area like is that wise.
They've been debating whether or not to put Mulan. Rumor has it that they've been debating whether or not to put Mulan on Disney Plus or release it in theaters. It will be in theaters in China, which they just announced.
Or any place that theaters are open, I believe, right?
Right, where I don't know in the U.S. I think it's just going to be Disney Plus.
Yeah, not in the U.S., but there are some countries where...
I think they said countries where Disney Plus is not available, they will have it in theaters. But so the rumor is that what happened, what actually got them to make Mulan go to theaters is that there was that whole deal with AMC and Universal. And basically... They made a deal that to shorten the theatrical window to 17 days at Universal's choosing. So after those 17 days, Universal could choose to either keep the movie in theaters or move it to digital and have a digital release. So there was the rumor that Universal then went to other theater chains and was like, listen, do you want to do the same deal? And then AMC went to other movie studios and was like, listen, we could also do the same deal, but with different percentages of profits and everything. And apparently, the rumor is that Disney was like, we ain't doing this, and just put Mulan. That's what triggered them to be like, okay, it was something they were considering, but now they're like, we're actually putting Mulan on Disney Plus now. So that's the rumor. And I don't know how true that is. I feel like that's like a very abrupt decision, but I think that is kind of a Disney decision where they're like, why would we shorten the theatrical window?
That is interesting.
It is interesting, and I think
the Universal decision.
I mean, it like timeline wise, it does make sense, right? That they would do that. Yeah, I think what is interesting about this whole thing is whether or not Disney's going to make their money back on Mulan with this decision. Because at first I would think no. But what do you I think yes. But at first I was like no. But then when I actually thought about it, I thought yes. What do you think?
I think it'll be successful. I don't think they'll make more money than if it was in theaters.
Because here's the difference that's very interesting of why they're not putting it, for them putting it on Disney Plus, it's different than if they were just going to put it on VOD. Because with VOD, you still have to give a cut of the profit to whatever platform is selling the movie. But with putting it on Disney Plus, Disney gets 100% of the profits from Mulan.
True.
So they don't have to give up. So usually their theatrical window, I think, is like 60% of the profit. But they don't have to give that up here. They could get 100%. And I think, so they really don't need that large amount of their Disney Plus subscribers to sign on for them to break even. I think I saw someone doing the math, and it was like 20%, 24% of their subscribers had to do it, and they would break even.
Is by Mulan?
By Mulan. If like 20, I think it was like 20% of Disney Plus subscribers paid for Mulan, they would make their money back on Mulan.
The thing is, I don't even think they need to necessarily make their money back. I think like as long as it's like successful, and then like they're like, all right, like now it's on like Disney Plus anyways, and then like people are still viewing it and stuff, like it could still be seen as a success.
Well, I think it's twofold. I think for it to be considered a success, it has to do one of two things. Either has to actually make a profit or bring in people to Disney Plus. If it gets those Disney Plus numbers up, like an influx of people signing up for the platform, I think then they would be considered a success by Disney. Because that's really the name of the game here, is them trying to get people on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
and
true.
We'll see how it does compared to
subscription numbers.
We'll see how it performs compared to New Mutants, which will be in theaters. What, the 28th? It's going to be in theaters August 28th. We'll see how that performs. I think they're just like, let's sacrifice these Fox movies for the good of the cinema.
Yeah. Also, going back to what I said before real quick. So I looked it up. The most expensive movie tickets are in California and New York. Then in like Texas, Massachusetts, like Pennsylvania, New Jersey. So it's all like the like
That's
big
us.
population state. Yeah, it's all the big population states with like the big cities like New York City, LA, obviously Texas, Dallas, Houston, Florida. It's in the Midwest is a lot cheaper.
So honestly, we'll see how Mulan performs. But what's interesting is how that Disney is officially, and we'll get into this with our part 2 discussion about the Paramount Decree, but Disney is really transforming Disney Plus from a streaming service to an actual video on demand service as well, where they are now putting Mulan on their service, setting the precedent that they can sell movies on their service, which is very interesting.
It is an interesting precedent. This might be going into other stuff, but I think it'll be just for the coronavirus stuff. I do think that they'll put other movies like this. I think Black Widow's doing this 100%. I would bet money on it.
Do you think?
At this point,
I feel like they're just
I
gonna
would,
keep pushing back Black Widow.
Kevin, how much you want to bet? I will bet money on it.
I'm
I think it's so
not that
obvious they're gonna
confident.
do that.
Depending on how Mulan performs, I think they're waiting on Black Widow.
Yeah, obviously. The big
I
thing
don't think Black
is
Widow's
that
coming out in the fall, but I feel like they'll just push it back.
I think it's Disney Plus or bust.
Really, I mean, they could, but I think there's room in the Marvel schedule. Just push back all your days.
There is room. Yeah, there is room, but also I feel like we get to a point of like diminishing returns where it's like, oh, a Marvel movie hasn't come out in a year and a half now, and it's like we kind of like, not that they like need to put something out, but I feel like they're gonna be they're more and more compelled every day to like put this movie out.
I mean, the longer they wait, the worse it ends up. Like they already have gone through their merchandise has been released. It's like, I mean, it does hurt the brand of the film, like, regardless of, like, because Mulan, I think, is going to perform not as well as it would if it came out when it did. Because I feel like Mulan's kind of old news, even though it hasn't come out. Mulan's kind of like old news at this point.
Do you think that both these movies are billion-dollar movies if it's a normal season?
Mulan?
I think Black Widow
I don't know.
is.
Black Widow
Mulan is like a 800 at least.
Yeah, I'll go 800. I think the thing about is, like, don't underestimate a Disney fairy tale, but I feel like Mulan doesn't have the audience. As a huge Mulan fan that I am, Mulan does not have this, like, big audience for some reason.
Yeah, it's definitely not up there with like Beauty and the Beast and stuff, but I still think like just the fact that it is like a Disney like princess story like that, like it'll fit.
And we'll see how it does theatrically in China. I think that's a big blow to the film that they're kind of losing out a little bit on the Chinese box office, because I'm sure it's not like people are going to be heading to the theater. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm really interested to see how it works. I think if it's even a little bit successful, Black Widow does it.
Yeah, I think if it, I mean, Black Widow I could see, but the only, because I feel like there's more of a demand for people to get that movie right away with Black Widow, whereas with Mulan, I think people, because the rumor is that it'll be you get early access to Mulan with your $30 on the platform, and then in like a few months or however many months they decide, it will go to everybody after those months.
The thing is, I feel like most like families aren't gonna buy Mulan.
Really?
Because it's like, why would they buy Mulan if they can just wait a few months and it'll be on Disney Plus anyways?
But I think if you get
Mulan
for the whole, we don't know how long it is.
True, but I don't think there's this like group of people who are really excited to like watch Mulan right now. I think there's a lot.
I agree with that. I think there's definitely Black Widow. You're right.
Yeah, I think with Black Widow, if you said that's out tomorrow, I think there's so many people who are like, oh, we're watching that right now. I think if you said like Mulan's out tomorrow, it'd be like, okay, like we'll watch it whenever. Like I think it's right. More of a timeless movie, not because quality wise, sometimes we haven't seen it, but just because of the nature of the movie, where MCU movies are more like events.
I think it's gonna be up to the Disney marketing team to make Mulan seem like an event. I don't know if they can, but I think that's up to them, because
we have less than a month to make it into that.
If Trolls World Tour could like make bank with $20 48-hour rental, because like I was reading articles. Bank? It did. I mean, we don't know officially how well it did, but it did. It did way better than Scoob, and Scoob you could purchase and buy. But the Trolls had a 48-hour rental, and apparently, this is an anecdotal thing, but I've heard a lot of people were renting Trolls for the $20 multiple days because they could only get it for the 48 hours. So they would just rent it because their kids loved to just have mindless Trolls on. They love
Trolls that much that they had to
apparently it honestly blew.
I don't think that can't be true.
But I feel like don't knock out Disney that they
multiple times.
I mean, don't knock out Disney that they can't tap into that market, but I think it's definitely, we'll see. I think Mulan, I mean, because it's hard to get the numbers. Disney, unless it does extremely well, Disney's not going to throw those numbers out for us. Because there's no way for us to check. There's no third party checking those numbers.
Right.
But I feel like there's a chance that it could make a profit for Disney, like do well with this $30 price tag. But we'll see as we get closer to it.
I think what they're mainly looking at, to be honest, is subscription numbers. Because if they can make subscriptions turn into like not just the month of Mulan, but then like months and months and months, then it's worth it anyway.
Yeah, I think that's like that's the name of the game, is subscription services. They recently, Warner Brothers, I don't know if you saw, had like the massive layoffs, and a lot of this stuff that they were doing. Some of it had to do with DC, by DC Universe, but
wait, did DC Universe officially get canceled?
I mean, I think most of those people are gone. I don't know if it officially got canceled, but
I know DC Comics got like a lot of
wiped.
A lot of layoffs,
I think a lot of people who worked on DC Universe got wiped too.
Really?
But another thing that got kind of restructured was HBO Max, because it didn't perform the well they wanted it to, and
really?
These studios are really devoted to these streaming services. And like a whole other thing with the comics is, side note, DC Comics has gone like almost completely digital now because they've gotten rid of the weak issues.
Are they? I thought they were just. Isn't Marvel the one who's delayed? Like they're waiting till, I think it was August now, until they didn't put out something for a while.
Well, DC just said that they're getting rid of the individual weekly issues, and so if you want a weekly issue, you got to get it digitally or wait till the entire graphic novel comes out. They're like, we're solely in a graphic novel.
But for just coronavirus or forever?
No, for now. Now.
What do you mean for now?
They just
like forever.
Like they changed the whole for as far as we know now, forever.
Kevin, you want a hot take?
What?
That's genius. I hate single issues.
I hate single issues as well. I like the graphic novels. I would wait for graphic novels because I hated the single issues.
I read single issues because like I want to be up to date on Spider-Man, but the actual trade paperbacks are so much better, dude. Oh, it's so much better.
I literally felt like I feel like it's like reading a scene and then waiting a week to get another scene and then another scene, and it literally bothers me. I'm like, let's just get through the whole thing. It's Quibi. That's the business model.
5 minutes of the movie, and then I agree. I think that's great. Actually, I didn't hear about that. I'm excited for that. I wish Marvel would do a similar thing.
I mean, they'll probably follow, but I mean because I think the Mulan and the whole DC thing is them really saying digital is the future. And we'll get into more on what I think. Well, we'll go into the Paramount Decree with Mulan stuff, but I think they're really heading into the digital direction from now on.
Yeah, we can go into that now.
So let's hit up the Paramount Decree.
If you don't know, let's put on Paramount. Put on what?
I was gonna say let's put on our thinking caps. We're about to get like sophisticated here.
Oh yeah. So, the Paramount Decree was a famous court case that basically decided if studios could own theaters, because the big problem back in the heyday, back in the birth of movies, really,
cinema,
was vertical integration, as they say.
Yes.
Where you would have a studio, they would have the actors, and they wouldn't just like hire actors. Like actors would be like hired per studio. So it's like Fox would own like these actors, and like only they could like use them or something like that. So they'd have like the actors, and they'd make the movies, and they'd own the production company. They'd own, like I said, the actors. Then they'd own the theaters. So they owned everything from production to distribution. And
so
people. So,
you can continue, Angelo. You're doing a great job teaching me. No, well, but the whole thing was like, Continue.
Yeah, so basically what happened was they're like, well, so this is kind of like a monopoly, because you could then be like, oh, we're not showing this movie in the theater because we don't want to, like stuff like that could arise.
Right.
Like studios
So
could only want to show their theater, stuff like that. So then it was harder for like more independent movies to get picked up, like a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah. So the whole thing was basically came down to studios controlling the production, distribution, and exhibition of projects. So in saying that the exhibition is what was the nail in the coffin. Because if I could produce something, then distribute it, and then choose how a consumer gets it, then I control the entire market. And so this was like an antitrust case that broke that down. And recently, it was decided that we were out of the Paramount Decree would no longer exist, and it officially became official there was no more Paramount Decree. So that's where we are today. Is they're getting rid of the Paramount Decree, which in broader sense prevented studios from owning movie theaters.
Right. And so a lot of people are critical of this decision because they think it will lead to like theaters or theaters being owned by, like, let's say Disney owns a theater chain, and then they're like, oh, we're not going to show Universal movies, or we're not going to show these movies, or da-da-da-da-da. Like, it could turn into that kind of thing. But also, it's been justified to remove the decree because of streaming services, where Netflix, by all accounts, for their original shows, do own the every facet of the exhibition, the production to exhibition, because they produce it and they obviously put it on. It's only on Netflix. So there's people who are saying it's outdated because of those reasons. And then there are also people saying that theaters are going to end because of this decision, because of it will lead to monopolies. So that's the Paramount Decree.
Right. And honestly, here's my hot take. I don't know if it's a hot take, but it doesn't matter. Like, honestly,
I kind of agree.
First of all, I don't think any movie studio wants to own a movie. The movie theaters are like a dying industry. They do not want to own. They are in the streaming game. With streaming, Disney can control the exhibition and control all profits from Mulan. They get 100% of the $30 price tag that you paid for Mulan. So why would they put up the cost to have their own movie theater just so they could get 100% of the profits running a movie theater when they can already get 100% of the profits on a streaming service that they own, right?
While you do say that, Netflix is trying to buy theaters. So there are streaming services that want to get into the theater game.
But then we want to go about, why does Netflix want to own theaters? And that was because Netflix wanted to make they wanted to make awards pictures. And there was a rule with the Academy that if you wanted to make an awards picture to be considered for an Academy Award, it had to be released in theaters. So no studio wanted to show theater company wanted to show Netflix movies because the window, they couldn't agree on a window of which is now out the window because of Universal, but they couldn't control a theatrical window of when they would be on Netflix and when it would only be in theaters. And so Netflix just started purchasing movie theaters. But now Universal's taken that, COVID-19 has taken out that window where things can now be theaters companies might decide to pull their movies after 17 days, like Universal might want to do with theater chains. So this whole storm is, I think, indicative of them all just going digital. I think movie theaters will become a very selective market. There'll be a few, and it will just be like the pastime, almost like kind of like video rental stores now. It's just a few special ones.
You think it's going to be that way, Kevin, but I know that we love movie theaters.
Right.
We love going. We went to the movie theater almost once a week together. When we did. Like
the prime before the COVID.
Yeah. So like I don't want that to happen. And Kevin, I don't think it's gonna happen. Because what I think movie theaters will turn into, and I think you said this. I think I might have got it from you. But I think it'll turn into a kind of almost like a not exactly obviously, but it'll almost be like Broadway shows where it's like more of an event
Yeah, like a
kind
premium
of thing.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be more of a premium experience. And also, I think COVID has showed that like a lot of people who are like, oh, the movies suck or whatever. Like I think a lot of people are like, oh man, I actually like miss going to the movies.
Right.
So and we also see that kind of like premium experience. Like that's what people want. AMC's doing all the recliner stuff. IMAX, Dolby are things. Alamo Drafthouse is more popular than ever.
Yeah.
Like this premium experience is kind of like what people are looking for, and movies are less about like going to like see them on like a few like going to see them like a weekday afternoon, and more about like these like big experiences where you like get food and you hang out and you like go with friends and you watch it in like Dolby sound and everything. So I think that's just where we're going. I think a lot of theaters will die in the process, unfortunately, but I think they'll always be around in a capacity.
Yeah. I think we're going to go to the exclusivity aspect of like premium theaters and all that kind of stuff. What we could see happen though is theaters, because our theaters are in trouble, I think right now, like largely,
You think?
especially smaller theaters. I think you might see a studio do a play where they purchase a theater almost as like a helpline to
Saving
save a theater,
grace.
right? And then I think if we go in that direction, I think you just see a bunch of all the local movie theaters will just die out because they won't have been purchased, they won't have been saved, and you'll have that problem. But then I think you're gonna get into a lot of stuff where is a movie theater, will Warner Brothers be able to put enough movies out that they can just have a theater where there's just Warner Brothers movies? Because
So the thing is, or no, sorry, you finish.
well, I was gonna say because like studios have owned theaters. I don't know the whole extent of the Paramount Decree, but they've gotten around it. Like studios have owned movie theaters, and I don't think they've ever expressed any interest in just owning more. Like Disney owns
Like
the
a chain.
El Capitan. Yeah, they own the El Capitan where they have all their movie premieres, and that's that. I don't think they really have an interest in owning a chain because I think overall the movie theater industry is like a dying business, and I think they're just having just a streaming service is better for them.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think like there's gonna be like, oh, come to a Disney theater and it's like Disney themed stuff like that. I do think there's a possibility that AMC buys a chain like AMC, Regal, Cinemark, and then like it's just owned by them. I don't think these companies would ever though do like I don't think Disney would be like, this is a Disney theater. I think they'd have like a different name for it, because I don't think these companies are gonna be like, oh well, we're just not gonna show rated R movies, or we're just not gonna show these movies, because like they're gonna do what makes money. So I think that,
honestly, if they're making 100% of the profit on their movies, let's say they do own a theater, do they really care if they're not making 100% of the profit on other? They're still making a profit off other studios' movies.
right.
I feel like, do they really want 100% of that profit? I don't know. But what is interesting, what I think is going to have actual effects from the Paramount Decree, because everyone talks about studios owning theaters, and honestly, I think that's just like, I don't think anyone has interest in doing that. I don't think there's going to be repercussions from that, because they have streaming services. They've basically already controlled exhibition, and no one really seems to care. The thing is that the Paramount Decree did stop block booking for studios, and that was basically that if I'm Disney, I can go to a theater and I'm like, listen, do you want Star Wars and Avengers? Well, if you want Star Wars and Avengers, you also have to play The Odd Life of Timothy Green 3 on your theater screen in the same amount of theaters, because if you want these movies, I need Timothy Green in IMAX on almost all of your theaters if you want Star Wars. And so they can basically block booking an entire theater, and so you have smaller studios that aren't as competitive like Disney, Warner Brothers, and they can't get their movies in, these little indie movies, because they've been booked. These theaters have been maxed out by the studios. And I think that's a problem we could see happen with block booking.
Right. I think, yeah, that's a problem. And I also think like if Disney let's say Disney bought AMC, they could be like, oh, Black Widow is $10 at AMC and it's $15 at Regal and everything.
Right.
Like that could definitely be something that they do. So I think those are concerns, but we'll see how it goes.
Right, and I think we'll see how streaming, because I think streaming will be the future, and I think it's ultimately going to be the streaming that takes out physical, like theaters and physical media. Because there's a recent thing where Disney's halted all 4K production. They've just paused it. But so movies that aren't big movies they're not doing a 4K distribution for them. So like that aren't Star Wars or Marvel, they won't have 4K, which is very sad for me. I like my physical media. But
yeah.
I think definitely what's stopping Disney from being like, let's pull all of our physical media, so it then forces people to get on Disney Plus, because we're not selling physical media anymore. And where are they going to get it other than Disney Plus?
The thing is about that, I don't think that like they would do that business-wise.
I agree. I think that's that's extreme.
I don't think there's anybody who's like buying physical media in lieu of Disney Plus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's just because physical media is like decreasing every year. It goes down like almost like 20% decreases, and it's not good. But I think unlike CDs, once physical media dies out, I think physical media is gonna go. That's my prediction. I don't think physical media is gonna, because we have streaming services. I don't think you're gonna have physical media that's like DVDs and Blu-rays. Once they go, I think they're gonna be. You
think they'll get completely?
Yeah, I think you might have a few examples where they like kind of like records are now, but I think, and just for like nostalgic purposes, but I think like largely everything's gonna be digital. I don't think there's gonna be any, because I think you're just gonna have a streaming plan and all your movies will be there.
I think there's still gonna be like DVD. Like I think there will be like, if you want a Blu-ray, it'll be in stores.
I hope,
because if people buy it, why wouldn't they? Right.
But the thing is, I think people are deciding not to buy anymore. I think especially during COVID, people have decided to do a digital library of movies now.
The issue is, I feel like for me about digital libraries, and I don't have like a super big physical library either, but I wouldn't know where to build the library. I feel
exactly. That's the thing. Because like, let's say I build it on places. Let's say I build it on Vudu. Once Vudu goes out, I'm kind of going to lose my titles. Am I not? Yeah. So you got to like have it. I think it's very risky. Like, I lost my power because of the hurricane, little known fact. And I got to tell you, we didn't have internet because things got knocked out. And physical media came in very handy. Was glad I had all my physical media, because I could just be like, oh, what do I want to watch? I didn't have to rely on the internet.
Right. Isn't Movies Anywhere the one that does like literally everything?
Yes, it does everywhere. That's what I have. It just puts it everywhere.
So you can just buy stuff on there.
They got you covered. Right. They got you covered.
Kevin, you know who runs Movies Anywhere?
I think I knew it at one point. But who?
Disney.
Isn't it Disney? Because they have the whole plan.
It's operated by Disney.
Yeah, because they have like the whole like you have like this like Disney rewards, and if you do it through Movies Anywhere, they're like, welcome Disney.
Maybe I just start building up a library on Movies
But
Anywhere.
certain studios don't do Movies Anywhere.
Like what studios?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I have certain movies that don't go on Movies Anywhere.
Oh, I don't think they have A94, not A94. A24. Is that the thing?
Maybe it's A24. I don't know. I don't know what their Movies Anywhere agreement is. Maybe it's. Let me check.
I'm not finding any A24 movies on it.
Oh, so it could be A24 is one of them. I feel like, what's Varian and the City of 1,000 Planets? What studio is that?
Valerian, the best movie ever made.
Valerian. What studio was that?
It was. Where it's not saying. I don't think any studio wants to take credit for it, Kevin.
Yeah, I feel like whatever studio that is. Don't quote me on that.
It was distributed by Europa Corp Distribution.
I feel like Europa Corp is on it then. I don't know.
Me neither, but that's
I don't
all
know. I don't know what their whole rules are.
because
I don't know what their
French
rules are.
production company.
Yeah.
It's
So I mean,
a
it does
French
limit.
movie.
Still, we want those hard copies, man. But hey, that's not where the industry's going. But yeah. So what's the future of movies? We don't know. We're just two guys sitting here talking about movies.
I think that we're all going to see the future of movies in 2 weeks when on August 28th, New Mutants releases to the world.
Finally, after years.
Kevin, are you excited to purchase our tickets for New Mutants?
Are we gonna do New Mutants? Are we gonna do it?
I don't think our theater is open.
I don't think it's open either. I mean, they'll have to be for New Mutants, right? I don't know.
No, they don't have to be. They could just stay closed.
I was like, what's our New Mutants game plan, Angelo?
I wish it was just on Disney Plus. I'm going on Fandango New Mutants. Let's see. Let's see if there's any.
Can you buy tickets now? What's going on with that?
The tickets go until August 18th, it said, actually.
Okay, well, see August 18th if our theater's going to be open.
I don't think our theater's going to be open. I gotta be honest with you. There's no way our theater's opening for New Mutants, Kevin. There's no way. Right?
I lost you, but whatever you're saying, yeah, there's no way.
I lost you too. We're back now. No, there's no way. There's no way the theater opens. I don't even think we'd go.
The theater by us? I don't know.
Spooky.
I was there a few weeks ago and it was closed. Like down. I was like, it was kind of sad. I was like, oh, our old theater. It was closed.
What do you mean closed?
Like they had like paper on like the doors. It was like, do not come in. I was like, this looks closed.
Oh,
but we'll see.
Gosh. At least we're not getting charged for A-list.
Right? Oh, A-list was so good.
I miss going to the movies.
I miss the movies too. I hope the movies stick around. I think they'll survive COVID, but I think we'll see what this year looks like. This year, if we don't end the year where people are going back to the movies, I feel like the movie theaters are going to be in a big problem.
I think
if they lose out
on Disney Plus November 28th.
Do you think?
That's my bet, know. Kevin.
Because if movie theaters, I don't know, Angelo, if they're gonna do it or not. I feel like it's a move. Because they stress with Mulan, we're not setting a precedent. I feel like they're gonna push back Black Widow. That's what I feel.
They're not gonna do it.
We'll see. I'm gonna say that, but I'm not very confident. But I'm gonna say that.
Unless Mulan is a disaster, I think Black Widow is a shoo-in.
We'll see what Mulan is like when it comes on the platform. I'm excited. I think.
Yeah.
I want to see this movie. I've been waiting since March, Angelo.
Yeah, and just the entire summer. I want to see Mulan in person. I want to see it in a theater, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Not Mulan.
I'm a little annoyed I don't get Black
Widow. To be honest, Kevin, I couldn't care about Mulan that much.
Honestly, I want to see Mulan. I want to see Mulan in a theater.
Honestly, I just want to see it in like our room with like.
I feel like I want to figure out how to rent a film screen so we can project it, and I can watch Mulan on a big screen.
I just want to watch Black Widow in theaters. Mulan, I can watch at home.
I would like to watch both in theaters. I miss theater going. Like
I do too.
We'd go to AMC theaters if you don't know.
You'd get your pretzel bites.
I get my pretzel bites. Angela gets nachos, sometimes popcorn, depending on the mood.
Sometimes I get like 8 things, and then I'm like juggling during the movie trying to eat stuff.
Yeah, he's got like everything going on.
Kevin, I buy food proportional to how bad the movie is. So the worse the movie, the more food I'll buy, so that I'm not like sad during the movie.
Do you ever? I always pick my snack whether or not I have to pay attention or not. Like if it's a movie I really have to pay attention during, like I won't get pretzel bites because they involve too much like precision.
Oh my god.
Because you know you got the icing, you got to dip in the icing. It's like a whole thing. It involves too much precision. If it's like for Tenet, I would probably not get a snack. If we see Tenet, when is Tenet? What's theirs called? They're gonna be in theaters, but they're just gonna wing it.
Kevin, we literally would see movies all the time. This sucks.
It does. We're gonna have a home theater now.
We're gonna bring a lot of microwave popcorn. That's what I'm telling you.
Ooh, that's smart.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I think that's almost all that we have to say.
Yes. So I think Disney really made a play with Mulan. I think setting a precedent that these studios, depending on how Mulan does, like Universal might be like, let's get Peacock going with maybe Trolls World Tour. Although Universal already owns like a lot, like Fandango I think is owned by Universal, so I don't think they care. But
we'll see. It's a bold move. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. I think Disney is changing, and Corona is changing the theater industry.
Yeah. So
go guys.
If you want more updates about what ends up happening to Mulan, stick here on the Mouse and Men podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like the video. If you're on podcast services, drop us a review. We'd super appreciate it. It helps us a lot. But other than that, thank you so much for watching.
Yes. And as always, I'm Kevin.
I'm Angelo.
And until next time.
So long, everybody.